Jax's revenge domain.
It's 2026. I need someone younger and cheaper, the CEO's son said, pushing me out of the room. HR will deal with you. Just pack your things and leave. I calmly warned him the price would be very expensive. The company lost $800 million. My name is Vincent Morrison. I'm 49 years old. Most people call me Vince. 22 years of building Arborvale Capital's risk management system, and this kid just erased it all in one Tuesday morning sentence. The conference room smelled like expensive leather and bad decisions. 3 people sat around that mahogany table. Dorian Vale, temporarily running operations while his father traveled overseas on some acquisition deal. Tessa Quill from legal, scrolling through her tablet like she had somewhere more important to be. And me, keeping my voice steady despite watching my career get dismissed like outdated equipment. This is about performance? I asked, adjusting my watch band one click tighter. Army habits kick in when the tactical situation shifts without warning. Dorian gave me that practice smile they teach at business school. All teeth, no substance. Performance is replaceable. Vince, cost isn't. The board wants lean operations. Digital transformation, you understand. He slid a termination folder across the table. Everything typed up neat and clean, probably prepared before I even walked in. We're moving toward automated compliance systems, AI-driven risk assessment. Your role is becoming obsolete. The air conditioning cycled on, humming at exactly 60 hertz. Environmental systems maintaining perfect operational parameters while the human systems fell apart. Son, I said, checking my watch again, you might want legal to review the continuity clause in my contract before you finalize this decision. Tessa's finger paused on her tablet screen, maybe half a second, then back to scrolling. Everything's already been reviewed, Dorian said, not even looking up from his paperwork. This is about efficiency, not personal feelings. The company needs to move faster. I stood slowly, straightened my tie. 22 years of building something gone because some MBA wanted to prove himself to daddy. Every system has dependencies. Remove the wrong component, everything fails. That's exactly the problem, Dorian said. Too many dependencies, too much bureaucracy. We're streamlining the decision chain. Security appeared at the door. 2 guys in cheap suits, probably making $15 an hour to escort out people who'd been here longer than they'd been alive. Standard protocol for terminations involving system access. As I walked past Dorian's chair, one tactical assessment settled in my operational awareness. They never asked what stops working when you cut the supply line, never asked what happens when you remove the person who built the safety net. After I left, the real damage started in that conference room. I found out later what happened through colleagues who were still inside the operational chain. Malcolm Sir, Chief Strategy Officer, leaned forward with consultant confidence. Guy had been at the company maybe 18 months, came from some Boston consulting firm with a reputation for optimizing organizational efficiency. Translation: firing people to make quarterly numbers look better. This is exactly what the board wants to see, Malcolm said. Lean structure, faster decisions, less bureaucratic overhead slowing down capital deployment. No compliance bottleneck? Dorian asked. Malcolm shrugged like he was discussing software updates. Vince's role was middle management. Useful once, maybe when regulatory frameworks were simpler. Now, dead weight. We can automate 90% of what he did. Tessa barely glanced up from her screen. His contract has standard continuity provisions. Nothing unusual in the termination documentation. Everything's been properly reviewed. Nobody opened the full contract. Nobody asked what those provisions actually controlled or why they'd been written in the first place. Nobody remembered why we'd added those safeguards after the 2023 infrastructure fund collapse. Good, Dorian said, signing the authorization memo with a flourish. This company moves too slowly already. Time to catch up with the digital economy. What none of them noticed was their decision already traveling through Arborvale's governance network. Deep in the system architecture I'd spent 3 years building, automated verification protocols compared personnel changes against contractual safeguards. A quiet notification appeared on the compliance dashboard. Continuity role status altered, system parameters updating. Protective protocols evaluating authorization chain. Malcolm pulled up a presentation on his tablet. With Vince out, we can accelerate the digital transformation timeline. Move from quarterly compliance reviews to real-time automated monitoring. Reduce operational overhead by 40%. Timeline? Dorian asked. 6 months to full implementation. Cost savings kick in immediately. Tessa finally looked up. The automated systems are already in place. Beta testing phase, Malcolm said. Vince was actually slowing down the rollout. Too attached to manual processes. Legacy thinking. Without his resistance, we can move faster. The irony was perfect. They were celebrating removing the person who designed the very systems they planned to rely on. At home that morning, I opened the document they were confident had been properly reviewed. The amended employment agreement I'd helped draft 3 years earlier after institutional investors demanded protection following the 2023 infrastructure fund collapse. Everyone had seen what happened when governance systems failed overnight. Pension funds lost billions, sovereign wealth funds pulled out of entire markets. Insurance companies faced regulatory action, so we built safeguards into every operational contract. Section 9.4, Continuity Assurance. Boring language that most lawyers skimmed over. Powerful effect that most executives never considered. If a designated continuity authority gets removed without board approval and proper transition protocols, the system enters protective governance mode. Capital allocations freeze. Compliance approvals suspend, operational sign-offs halt. The system protects itself and the investors who demanded those protections. I sent one email to legal, professional courtesy, nothing more. Please confirm review of Section 9.4 regarding continuity assurance protocols. Reply came back in 20 minutes. All contractual provisions reviewed and confirmed compliant. I didn't write back. Once you're outside the chain of command, warnings don't carry operational authority. Documentation does. And the documentation was already working its way through the system. My phone rang around 11 a.m. Sarah Morrison, my wife of 18 years. How'd it go? She asked. About like we expected. Pause. They didn't listen. Nope. What happens now? I checked my watch. The second hand moved with mechanical precision, each tick marking another moment closer to when Arborvale would discover what they'd actually done. Now we wait for the supply chain to break. The system would check itself. If the command structure was compromised, it would simply refuse to execute orders. That's how we designed it back when everyone was still scared about what happened to Blackstone Financial in 2023. First sign of trouble came from Treasury at noon sharp. Mark Alvarez had been with the company for 8 years, solid guy who understood the operational flow. He tried releasing a $40 million capital allocation for an infrastructure project that had been sitting ready for weeks. Everything was staged, documentation complete, investor commitments confirmed. He clicked authorization. The system paused. Red notification appeared on his screen. Compliance verification pending. Mark frowned, tried again. Same result. One line explained the operational status. Continuity authority unresolved. He called me around 12:30. Vince, are you still around the office today? Not anymore, Mark. Papers shuffling in the background, probably pulling up the project files. We're trying to release the Northbridge allocation. Compliance won't clear the authorization. Says there's some kind of verification issue. That's expected. Long pause. What do you mean expected? You trained the team to escalate when something doesn't match governance requirements, right? Right? But escalation means someone with authority signs off on the exception. That depends on who the system recognizes as having accountable authority. More silence. Then who signs off now? Nobody. I could hear Mark's keyboard clicking, probably pulling up the compliance dashboard. Vince, this is a $40 million allocation. We've got contractors waiting, material orders placed, the client's expecting capital deployment this week. I understand the operational impact, so how do we fix this? You don't. The system is working exactly as designed. After I hung up, I made coffee and sat on the back porch. Sarah was at work, house quiet except for the neighbor's dog barking at delivery trucks. 22 years of building something and it was about to prove its worth whether they wanted it to or not. The problem spread quietly through the operational chain. I got calls from 3 other department heads by 2 p.m. Same issue everywhere. Treasury couldn't release capital. Legal couldn't approve new contracts without continuity sign-off. Operations couldn't authorize vendor payments above the automated threshold. Malcolm called around 3 p.m., voice tight with what sounded like controlled panic. Vince, we're seeing some delays in the approval pipeline. Delays? System verification issues. Multiple departments affected. I adjusted my watch, checking the time against the atomic clock signal. They're waiting for accountable authority. Legal says operational intent matters. There was no intent to disrupt system functions when we made the staffing adjustment. The clause doesn't measure intent, Malcolm. It measures command structure. Background voices, probably him covering the phone to talk to someone else. Are you saying this is directly because of your termination? I'm saying the system recognizes when governance changes without proper transition protocols. We'll sort this out through internal channels. I'm sure you'll try. By late afternoon, concern had become operational panic. 3 large allocations stuck in the pipeline. Treasury couldn't release capital for projects that were supposed to break ground next week. Investor contacts increasing. Dorian called me around 4:30. Same confidence as that morning, but the tactical edges less certain. We need to discuss this system issue. What system issue? Don't play games, Vince. Everything requiring your approval signature is stuck. I don't have approval authority anymore. You terminated my access this morning. Pause. So who has authority now? That's what the system is trying to determine. This is ridiculous. We'll assign someone else. Good luck with that. What do you mean, check? Section 9.4 of the Continuity Provisions. Assignment of replacement authority requires board approval and 60-day transition period. Longer pause. Background noise suggested he was in the main conference room, probably with Malcolm and half the executive team. 60 days? Minimum? Longer if the board determines additional training is required for the replacement to understand the full scope of responsibilities. We can't wait 60 days. We've got deals closing, capital commitments, regulatory deadlines. Then you probably should have considered that before making unilateral changes to the governance structure. Vince, this is affecting real business operations. It's protecting real investor capital. That's what it was designed to do. Emergency board session was scheduled for early the next morning. I found out through Jim Patterson, one of the independent directors who'd always been straight with me. Vince, what the hell happened yesterday? Dorian decided I was too expensive in this system lockdown. Natural consequence of removing continuity authority without following the transition protocols. Jim was quiet for a moment. The protocols you helped write. The protocols the board approved after institutional investors demanded protection. Right? How bad is this going to get? Depends on how long they take to fix it properly versus how long they spend trying to work around it. What's the difference? Fix it properly means admitting they made a mistake and following the restoration procedures. Working around it means trying to override the safeguards, which triggers additional protective measures. Cross-reference clauses in investor contracts. If the system determines that management is attempting to bypass governance protections, it notifies institutional partners and activates their withdrawal rights. Jim let out a low whistle. How much capital exposure are we talking about? Total institutional partnerships, about 800 million. By next morning, legal had finally done what they should have done 2 days earlier, actually read the entire clause. Tessa sat quietly as implications settled around the conference table. A governance change without board authorization meant automatic protective governance mode, but it was worse than that. The system had logged 2 critical events in the same continuity window: removal of continuity authority and the approval of that removal by someone without proper board authorization to make governance changes. So we're dealing with a continuity breach, Preston Reed, the lead independent director, said slowly. Malcolm leaned forward, still spinning. This is perception management. Investors react to uncertainty. Fastest way to restore operational confidence, demonstrate decisive leadership accountability. What are you suggesting? Conrad Vale had returned from overseas, looked like he hadn't slept on the flight back. Leadership reset. If Dorian steps aside temporarily while we resolve this technical issue, markets see responsible governance in action. I was monitoring news feeds when messages from former colleagues started arriving. Emergency board meeting. Legal panic, investor pressure mounting. Stock price down 12% on uncertainty about operational delays. I knew what Malcolm would recommend. I also knew something they didn't understand yet. Removing Dorian wouldn't resolve the breach, it would escalate it. A second leadership change would trigger cross-reference clauses in institutional investor contracts. The system wouldn't stabilize. It would enter full defensive mode, automatically notifying every institutional partner that governance had failed operational standards twice in the same week. Less than an hour after the board meeting ended, internal memo circulated throughout the company. Dorian Vale has resigned his position effective immediately, while the company addresses certain operational challenges. For about 3 hours, it looked like tactical success. Financial news picked up the story. Arborvale announces leadership adjustment. Markets generally respond well to clarity, even when the clarity isn't actually solving anything. But governance systems don't react to headlines. They react to command structure, and the command structure had just failed twice. When the official update was filed with regulatory authorities, Arborvale's corporate registry recorded 2 critical changes in the same continuity window. Removal of continuity authority, followed by resignation of the executive who'd authorized it. That triggered something more serious than delayed approvals. Across multiple investment agreements, dormant protective clauses awakened like sleeping guard dogs. Withdrawal rights, repricing options, allocation suspension protocols. None of these required lawsuits or accusations. They simply gave institutional partners legal authority to protect their capital when governance demonstrated it couldn't protect itself. Victor Huang called me at home around 2 p.m. Senior partner at a pension fund that had allocated capital through Arborvale for more than a decade. Voice was quieter than usual, more measured. Vince, our legal counsel has been reviewing the partnership agreement. I waited, adjusting my watch to precisely match the atomic time signal. Our counsel says we have discretionary withdrawal authority triggered by governance instability. That's correct. Two leadership changes in 1 week constitutes instability under Section 12.7. It does. Long pause, we're exercising that authority. Effective immediately. Victor's call was just the beginning. Within 2 hours, my phone rang 6 more times. Same conversation, different accents. Toronto Logistics Fund suspending their rail modernization allocation. Sovereign investment partner from Singapore requesting immediate capital repricing. European pension group exercising withdrawal rights, moving their portfolio to a competing fund management structure. No threats, no accusations. No angry confrontations. Contracts simply allowed investors to protect themselves when governance failed basic operational standards. Around 4 p.m., numbers started appearing on Treasury's projection screens. First one withdrawal, then another, then clusters of them as word spread through institutional investor networks. Mark called me with updates every 30 minutes, voice getting tighter each time. First batch, 40 million, he reported. Okay, second batch, 90 million total. Noted Vince, it's not stopping. 200 million now. The phones won't quit ringing. The figure kept climbing. By close of business, it had stabilized at exactly what I'd calculated 3 years ago when we designed these protections. $800 million. Not stolen. Not lost to bad investments or market crashes. Just capital leaving the structure that once held it secure, flowing to management companies that hadn't demonstrated governance failure twice in 1 week. Around the conference table at Arborvale, directors sat in silence. Malcolm looked like someone had moved the ground under his strategic assumptions. His leadership reset had accelerated the operational collapse instead of containing it. Conrad Vale stared at the projection screen showing real-time capital outflows. How is this even possible? The continuity clauses, Tessa said quietly. When governance changes twice in the same window, it triggers cross-reference provisions in institutional contracts. Meaning what? Meaning every major investor gets legal authority to withdraw without penalty if they determine management can't maintain operational stability. Preston Reed, the independent director, rubbed his forehead, and they're all exercising that authority simultaneously, wouldn't you? Malcolm asked, then immediately looked like he regretted saying anything. My former colleagues started reaching out around 6 p.m. People who'd worked with me for years, watched me build the systems that were now protecting institutional capital by denying it to management that couldn't follow basic protocols. Vince, this is insane, said Jennifer Walsh from operations. Half the executive floor is in panic mode. They're talking about bringing in crisis management consultants. What kind of crisis management? The kind that costs $2,000 an hour to tell you what you already know, which is that you can't override investor protection clauses by hiring better consultants. At home that evening, Sarah and I sat on the back porch watching the sun set over a neighborhood where most people had normal jobs that didn't involve designing financial safeguards or watching them activate against the people who'd ignored them. 800 million, she said, confirmed. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of trust. Was a lot of trust. She was quiet for a moment. Do you think they'll figure it out? Eventually? Question is whether they'll figure it out fast enough to matter. What happens if they don't? I checked my watch again. The mechanical movement kept perfect time, each tick marking moments in a crisis that was following the exact timeline we'd mapped out during the safeguard design phase. Then Arborvale becomes a case study in business schools about what happens when you fire the person who built your safety net. Late that night, Conrad called my personal number, voice tired, none of the executive authority he usually carried. We didn't understand the interaction between termination protocols and the governance clause. I explained it in the email. Pause. When exactly 3 days ago? Tuesday morning. Section number, clause reference, timestamp, all documented. Silence stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. I see that now, he finally admitted. The board is trying to determine how this operational failure happened. They already know. What do they know? That the system worked exactly as designed. The safeguards protected institutional capital when governance demonstrated it couldn't protect itself. Conrad was quiet again. When he spoke, his voice sounded older. $800 million, that's the exposure calculation, yes. Those clauses were written to prevent exactly this kind of governance failure. Correct. And we triggered them by ignoring the warning you sent. You triggered them by making unilateral governance changes without following the protocols your own board had approved. The investigation moved fast. When $800 million walks out the door in one afternoon, boards tend to prioritize understanding why. The report was clinical, no speculation or political considerations, just timeline and decision chain. Dorian approved governance change without board authorization. Malcolm recommended it without reviewing contractual safeguards. Legal dismissed the warning without examining the operational clause that warning referenced. Conrad wasn't present to provide oversight, having delegated authority to someone who didn't understand what he was authorizing. Each decision was documented. Each warning ignored was time-stamped. The chain of failures that led to $800 million in capital flight was mapped with the precision you'd expect from a risk management system designed by someone who'd spent 22 years thinking about what could go wrong and how to prevent it. Next morning, Preston Reed called me at home. "Vince, the board would like to discuss your return to Arborvale." The offer arrived by messenger 2 hours later. New title: expanded operational authority, compensation reflecting the scale of what had happened and what would be required to rebuild institutional confidence. "This isn't about compensation," I told Preston when he called for my response. "What is it about? Tactical timing. Pause. The company could use your institutional knowledge right now. It could have used it last week, when the decision was still reversible." "Vince, we're talking about rebuilding investor confidence, demonstrating that we've learned from this operational failure." "Preston, you're talking about damage control. I'm talking about consequences. What's the difference? Damage control assumes you can fix something that's broken. Consequences mean you live with what you chose. Some offers arrive after the mission parameters have permanently changed. 3 months later, I sat in a different conference room on the other side of town. Morrison Risk Consulting had rented space in a converted warehouse. Nothing fancy, just enough room for the kind of work that mattered. Reviewing governance frameworks for an infrastructure fund expanding its operational portfolio. The discussion sounded different here. Nobody asked how much I cost. They asked what might break if they moved too fast without proper safeguards. They asked about worst-case scenarios and how to prevent them. They asked the kinds of questions that people ask when they've seen what happens when you don't ask them. "Walk us through the continuity protocols," said Helen Reeves, managing partner of the fund. "Standard approach is designation of critical roles, cross-training requirements, and transition timelines that protect both operational continuity and institutional confidence. Timeline for transition if someone leaves, 60 days minimum for senior governance roles, longer if the role involves specialized system knowledge or regulatory relationships. And if someone tries to shortcut that timeline, depends on how the protective clauses are written. Done properly, the system should refuse to operate until proper protocols are followed." Helen nodded. "Like what happened to Arborvale, exactly like what happened to Arborvale." 6 months after that, Morrison Risk Consulting had secured contracts with 3 former Arborvale clients. Turns out, institutional investors value demonstrated competence in crisis prevention over quarterly efficiency metrics. They'd rather pay someone who understands how systems fail than someone who promises to make them cheaper. Across town, Arborvale released its final operational report to remaining investors. 70-page document that recorded the complete chain of events. Unilateral governance decision made without board authorization. Warning ignored without proper review. Second leadership change that triggered additional protective clauses. Capital flight totaling $800 million. My name appeared once in a footnote referencing the warning email that legal had dismissed without examination. Didn't need to be mentioned more than that. The numbers spoke clearly enough. The report's conclusion was clinical. Institutional investor confidence depends on demonstrable governance stability. Operational efficiency initiatives must be balanced against regulatory compliance and continuity requirements. Translation: don't fire the person who built your safety net to save money on payroll. Malcolm Sir had moved on to another consulting firm, probably telling new clients about the importance of lean operations and digital transformation. Dorian Vale was working at a startup in Austin, learning about building things from the ground up instead of dismantling what other people had built. Conrad Vale had stepped down as CEO but remained on the board, focusing on strategic advisory roles. The kind of position they create for people who need to save face while acknowledging they shouldn't be making operational decisions. Tessa Quill was still at Arborvale, presumably reading contracts more carefully now. On a Tuesday morning in December, almost exactly 9 months after that conference room conversation that changed everything, I was reviewing compliance frameworks for a new client when my phone rang. Area code I recognized. Morrison Risk Consulting, Vince speaking. "Vince, this is Helen Garrett from Arborvale's board. We're dealing with some governance questions on a new institutional partnership, and we'd like to hire your firm for consultation." I checked my watch. The second hand moved with mechanical precision, marking time in a world where some lessons cost $800 million to learn. What kind of governance questions? Continuity planning, making sure we have proper safeguards in place before we expand operations. "I can send you our standard engagement terms. That would be helpful." And Vince, yes, we should have listened the first time. Yes, you should have. At 49, I learned something valuable about corporate operations and human nature. Respect isn't automatically given to titles, degrees, or family connections. It's earned through competence demonstrated under pressure. And when competence walks out the door because someone thought it was too expensive, the operational bills come due fast. The young executive who called me too expensive learned a costly lesson about the real price of institutional knowledge. It's not what you pay to keep it, it's what you lose when you throw it away. Sometimes the most expensive mistakes don't come from market crashes or regulatory violations. They come from someone in a conference room deciding that experience is just another line item to cut. The system worked exactly as designed. It protected institutional capital when management demonstrated it couldn't protect itself. $800 million moved from a structure that had failed basic governance standards to structures that maintain them. That's not revenge. That's consequences. The difference matters, especially when you're the one who has to live with what you choose. If stories like this resonate with you, it's probably because you've seen what happens when institutional knowledge walks out the door. Because you understand the difference between cost and value. Because you know that some systems can't be replaced by cheaper alternatives and some knowledge can't be downloaded from the internet. These conversations about workplace respect and the hidden value of experience usually start with a simple question. What happens when the person who built your safety net decides they're tired of being treated like overhead? Sometimes the answer costs $800 million to learn. Sometimes it costs more. But the lesson is always the same. Experience isn't just what you've done. It's what you know about what can go wrong and how to prevent it. When you decide that knowledge is too expensive to keep, you usually find out how expensive it is to lose.